Alright, guys, welcome back to the pod. Welcome back to Game and Compute. Here on this podcast, we talk about jobs, finance, school, education. Today, I want to talk about something called debt collector scams. Now, I started looking into this because I recently started actually checking my messages. Like, that's gonna sound stupid, but I mean, if I get an out of state call from a state where I don't know anybody, and usually, the states where I know somebody, they would likely text me. And so if I get a missed call with no voicemail from a state that I don't even know, or even if it does have a voicemail and it's from a state I don't even know, like if I don't have any business there, don't know anybody there, I delete it, because it's like, well, where would this call be coming from in the first place? But I noticed, lately I started getting these unknown calls, and I was like, okay, like they have voicemails though, like full voicemails, and I can't remember if there are about 2 or 3 of them, but they were basically voicemails that were from unknown people. Let me see if I can pull it up. I may have deleted it. Because you know how you can see the information on some of the voicemails, and it tells you, like, what the transcribed message says. And so I'm trying to look at that. Okay. So there's one that says that, there's a claim being processed in the city that I live in. And it says how many people tried to reach out to me, and they tried over the last several days, and they verified my commercial as well as several residential locations. Sorry, it's hard for me to read this because a lot of it has like those blank lines, because this system couldn't really read it, and or couldn't like interpret it, and then also it's not really written out in actual like speech that people would say, because there's like words that aren't actually, like, it says George at part of it. I know when I listened to the voicemail, it didn't say George, but it kind of wrote it out as George. So there's a lot of it that's kind of written really funky and like strange sounding. But basically it was a voicemail that was pretty lengthy, saying that I had a claim number and call this other specific office. So over the course of maybe 3 days, I was like, okay, what is this? So I called that office number, and the first person was very rude. I gave a claim. I said I had a claim number, and the person told me, it was a guy, he was like, we never call anybody, we don't call anyone. And so I'm like, okay, you don't call anyone. Like, they're like, we never would call you. And I'm like, well, what company is this? He didn't want to answer my question. And I was like, well, I got a voicemail saying to call this number. And he's like, we don't leave voicemails, like, blah, blah, like. And I'm kind of like, okay, that's weird, though. And so, at first I was like, okay. But then I was like, maybe he's just like a mean admin person or something. And so, not that admin people are mean, but maybe he just happened to be like a mean one. So that didn't deter me. The first time I called, just them saying that they had I was being very vague, and I was like, I got this voicemail from an unknown number, and it said to call back this number. And they're like, they had no idea like what I was talking about. And so the guy starts getting more and more frustrated. I didn't even get to the point to even give him the claim number, I don't think. But then I was like, well, what if it's true? Because I almost got caught up in it. I was like, what if it's true? So I called again, and, a person was asking me to verify, all this kind of stuff. Like, basically, they were saying I owed some kind of debt from who knows what. And so that doesn't match up, right? I call back that second time after calling the rude guy. The rude guy first tells me, that whatever this is doesn't exist or whatever. Like, he was kind of like, I clearly had disrupted his day, but he was almost at the point where he was like, well, I need to like, if you don't have anything further, then like, okay, I'm gonna be done with this call, like he was kind of like on his way out to like end the call or whatever. Like, he wasn't trying to talk to me. He wasn't trying to like do anything. I was just kind of like, well, what the heck? And I call back, like, because I'm thinking it's a scam, so I call back like maybe like 4 times. Like, I call back right away. I think the same guy answers, at least someone who sounded like him, so I hang up. I call back again, and the interesting thing is, too, it doesn't route through, there's no, like, front desk, there's no nothing, there's no, if you want this, press that, if you want this department, press that. It's always a representative who answers the phone directly. It's an 855 number, which is like, what the heck is that? And so, yeah, I play with the phone a little bit, call, hang up, don't even talk to anybody, like probably like 3-4 times, call, hang up. Then I call, and a lady answers the phone, and I told her who I had been talking to, because I wrote down this guy's name. And she didn't seem fazed by it or anything, didn't seem to know why I was calling. So I told her why I was calling. And then she, asked me to, I don't remember if she asked me to confirm my name or if she already had my name, which is weird, right? It's like, how are you going to have my name from the number that I called when apparently there's this other, like, police type office calling me with an unknown number that, all of a sudden I call some other line, and just by giving my name, I don't know if I gave my name, but I think they looked up my number or the claim number, and then they said that they looked up my name, my I think email. They said I owed some money on something from like God only knows how long ago. And I was kind of like, okay. And they said like I borrowed money, like a certain amount of money. I can't remember what it was, but somehow I owed like 4 times whatever that amount was. So say if it was like $400, I owed like $1,600 or something like that. They said because of interest. I don't remember the exact number, but it was like in the thousand, like in the over $1,000. I'm like, that's weird. And I didn't write it down the first time, I don't think. No, the first time, sorry. So the lady I actually start talking to, that's actually engaging me in this conversation, the first lady I'm talking to that's engaging me in this conversation, was not telling me, I don't think she told me money amounts, because we didn't get very far in the conversation. She starts asking me the last 4 of my social, and, she confirms my email, phone number, and then I think she asked me for the last 4 of my social, and I said, I'm not comfortable giving that out. And I'm thinking, okay, if this is a company that really is legit, how are they going to not have my social? You know, like, she's like, we need, your social so we can unlock the account. So apparently they say they get accounts from attorneys, and it's not really what their company fully does all the time, but they get accounts from attorneys, and in order to unlock it, they need my social. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to give it out, but can't you just unlock it without that? And so she puts me on hold. She's like, I'm going to ask my supervisor if you'll please hold. So I hold, and she puts me on hold, and then I hang up. I call back, I think the next day, and, talk to a whole different person. I can't remember what that other lady's name was that I had talked to, who was that second person I had spoken to after the rude man. But it sounded like a guy's name, like Ronnie Howard or something like that. Like, it sounded like a name like that, but it sounded like a woman, like from the South or something. I go and call that next day. Maybe it was the next day, maybe it was a couple days later, because I got another voicemail too. And that's the second voicemail that I was reading. So it looks like Monday and then Thursday, I guess. So it was Monday, then Thursday, I guess. And so I call back, I'm talking to someone who sounds almost like that second lady, but the name was different. Like I said, I can't remember the second lady's name, but it was like a guy's name, and this next lady, her name was different. I wrote it down. I wrote these down somewhere, and then I call. I ask for the name of what is it that I owe for? Like, what's this loan or whatever? And she tells me this company name, and then I ask her, what's your company's name? I can't remember if I asked her or the second lady, the first lady or the second lady, but I think the second lady asked, what's your company's name? And then she tells me the name of the company is Securian. And I'm like, Securian? I'm like, okay, what's your address? Or like, where are you located? And she's like, I can't tell you that. It's confidential information. And I'm like, what's your company's email address? She wouldn't give me that. I asked her, okay, like, and then when I look up this number that's given, that number doesn't come up on their Securian website. So I'm thinking, Securian is a website. It is a company that deals with financial stuff. But I'm also like, okay, this is weird if it's a company calling me. And so I'm like, all right. And then I can't remember how the conversation went fully, but she basically asked me some more questions, just like, what's your she asked me the same things, like, what's your what's the last four of your social? And I was kind of like, I don't really give out my social. And she was like, well, let me see if I can look it up. I'll have to ask a manager if I can look it up without if we can unlock it without your social. And I'm just thinking, like, why would you need my social, and why would your manager need to approve that? Like, wouldn't you already get approval? Like, to me, that's kind of weird. It's like, why would your manager approve if you could open my account without the social? Because I'm like, well, I've verified every other piece of information for you, so why the heck do you need that, And she actually did state an address that was, I guess, accurate, but also remind you, I haven't been back here very long, so and I don't know if I updated my taxes. I actually don't know where my official address is listed. I have to double check that. I did change it on some banking information though. I know that, but I don't know if I changed it on every single thing. Like, I don't really get that much mail that I care about, other than like if it's from like the IRS or Federal Tax Bureau, or you know, I mean, I'm looking for a refund from AAA, so I'm checking the mail from them. But yeah, I don't get like that much mail that I actually like need. It's mostly just junk. And so I'm like, okay, well, I've never received mail from any of these people. You would think, you know, if so basically they were trying to say that there's some kind of a lawsuit from some lending company, and they asked me if I recognized the name, and I was like, I guess. I mean, like, I know a lot of payday lender company names, you know. And they're like, you owe this much from whatever time. I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I wouldn't remember, honestly. So I tried to go back into one of my previous bank accounts, and I was like, I can't get in through the app anyways. And then I was trying to think, like, you know, yeah, she tries to verify all this information. So she opens my file apparently, because she got the approval, and starts going through a bunch of my personal information. Mind you, it was information I never gave. They had all this information in the first place. I never gave them my social. They were able to verify it. I can't remember if she verified my whole social. I think she did. I was just like lying and just like, no, you know, that's not what it is. But I mean, like, what else am I going to say, you know? But I'm like, I want to see what information they have on me. And so, you know, I verified some of it, because it was like, well, you clearly have it. You have my phone number, so I can't say it's not my phone number, because you probably see my phone number, and I got some other unknown message on my phone, which was likely from them, by the way. But it's just weird, right? Like, a company that's telling you to call some 855 number doesn't want to give you their address for their business, or an email address for correspondence. Can't explain to me who left. You know, they don't seem to have like documentation or charts or notes about who would have specifically called me, what officer, badge, whatever. None of that. All they have is a claim number, and when you call, they answer, but it's always a different person, so far. And so all that to me is a little strange. It's pretty strange. And yeah, I looked up Securion's website, and they said that they do, not they said, but it's basically like a financial site. It doesn't say anything about debt collection or lending or anything like that. It's not related to that at all. But they're like, well, sometimes we take these cases. I'm like, okay, fine. And so I was trying to look up the company that they mentioned, and that lending company, just by .com, doesn't really exist. I don't know if they ever were like a .com, but when I Googled their their name, they didn't even like specifically come up. The closest version had an S at the end. And then I tried calling that mainline number, and unless you have like a current loan application that you're trying to apply for, there's no customer service. I emailed their customer service line. It was an admin line. I emailed it. I haven't gotten a response back at all, not even in my junk mails. And so I'm like, okay, there's no legit website. Like, usually if you Google something like those money, what are those ones that you see just like on the corners and places, like Speedy Cash or like Money, whatever, the ones that you see like all over the place. Like, usually you can Google those and it comes up. And they're not hard to get in touch with. You call them and they're there, like, immediately. Like, as long as the office is open, they're going to answer the phone. So they call, so that was basically the process with this one. And then they're like, okay, like they told me how much they said I originally took out. They told me how much I owe now. And then they said if I don't pay, then they're going to move forward with a court hearing or something. And that they're going to move forward with a court hearing, and that they're going to I'll be responsible for court costs as well. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, well, let me see if I can get in touch with that company, so because that's what I was trying to do. Like, on Friday, I was trying to get in touch with that company, but I was like, well, I called the lending line and I couldn't get through to a person. Nobody responded to my email. Because I'm like, did I have a loan with you guys? Like, do I owe you guys money? Like, what the heck is this, I gave them basic verifying information, email address, first and last name, phone number. Usually any legit company can look up your details by that information. Because they put all that in the system. If you do an application with them, they know how to get in touch with you. And I haven't had any missed calls from them. Maybe I did years ago, if it was like 2015 or something. I don't remember that far back, honestly. So I don't really know if I was ever getting calls from them, but I have always checked my mail. And that's one thing that I'm like, I don't think I've ever had missed mail from them, because I don't get that much mail. Most of it that I get, I don't need. But I do actually check it, because it's not like I get mail like every single day. So, I get mail like maybe once a month or something, or maybe twice, like, unless it's like holidays and I have aunts sending me cards and stuff like that. But like, I don't really get mail like that. And so I kind of was like, I'm still skeptical. I haven't 100% determined. I watched the Dave Ramsey episode, and the clip that, not a whole episode, well, I have watched whole episodes, but the specific clip that I watched was short. It was about a lady who had like a payday debt collector. It didn't sound like this though. It sounded different, because these are the details. Like, to me, the details of it are more concerning than the actual, like, do I owe it or not. Like, I feel like if I owe it, it's like I'll just call the company and pay. Like, it's not really like a big deal. I don't think I owe it, and there's no way I can verify it online or calling them, so that's weird, because I can't find like a number or a website or anything to contact them with. And so I'm like, okay, I don't even know how to contact you. And so there's that. But I guess on that note of not knowing how to get in touch, and then the last thing that lady said was, good luck in court. But I think I called twice. I think I called her twice. And I remember in part of the conversation, I was like, this is kind of weird, and it kind of sounds, I didn't say it sounds scammy. I said, I was trying not to alarm her, and I was like, I just think you guys should maybe, consider the type of process that you use, because it kind of sounds a little bit scammy. And she was just like, she had been calm the whole time until I mentioned that, and then she was kind of like, what do you mean? It's not a scam, it's blah, blah, blah. Like, I couldn't hear exactly what she was saying, because I started talking over her, because I realized she was getting a little like, it's not a scam, like, what do you mean? This isn't a scam. And like, she tried to like explain it more. So I start talking over her, and I'm like, excuse me, no, it's not what I meant. No, it's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. Wait, that's not what I meant. Kind of like that. And I was like, what I mean is, I can explain myself more clearly, that when I, just having a process of someone calling from an unknown number, and then me having to call a whole different number. I can't look up the number. I can't look up your website. I can't look up the address of what your company is. You don't have email addresses. And some other guy told me that you guys don't make calls out. Wouldn't even take my claim number. And then you ask me for the last four of my social. Actually, they had the last four of my social. And asked me to verify it at a certain point. And I was denying it. And then, I was like, that doesn't sound weird to you? And then she just said, something along the lines of like what their company's trying to do, and like what their purpose is or something. And I'm just thinking, like, if I was really talking to like a real either sales rep or some kind of a rep, if this person was actually a rep, then I think what would actually happen if it was an actual sales rep, then they would have maybe joked a little more, and been like, no, it's not a scam, I know people say that, or like, I don't think they would have been like super defensive like that, because that's kind of weird. Like, that was another thing that kind of caught me off guard. And you don't have any information, and when I look you up, your company doesn't do anything that you said you were going to do. Now, I remember a few years ago, maybe 2020, a couple years ago, I got a call from my sister who said that, some attorney was trying to contact me. That's the first time I ever dealt with something like that. And they were really, really rude and threatening, just like, you need to pay now, you need to pay today. I remember talking to a couple people on work breaks and then like hanging up. And then I think I got scared and called back another day during one of my lunches or something. And they're like, are you gonna pay, like, whatever. It wasn't even a lot. It was like a lot, but not really. It was like $300 or something. So I remember I got the money, or I don't know how I either did have the money or got it by the next time I called or whatever. I can't remember, honestly. This was a while back. And So I call back. I give them my, I don't know if it was card information or something. And I waited, I was like, okay, the money's going to come out like right away. And I wait like a day, it doesn't come out. I wait like 2 days, it doesn't come out. 3 days, it doesn't come out. A week, it doesn't come out. By 2 weeks, it hasn't come out at all. And I'm just like, okay, that's weird. And I forgot all about it because I was like, whatever, like, you know. And then when I'm talking to this person recently, last week, the lady on the phone, this last lady I'm talking to, mentioned, oh, you worked with us a few years back. Does this sound familiar? That you paid blah, 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 or whatever. And I was like, yeah, it does kind of sound familiar. So I'm like, oh, so that company never withdrew my money in the first place. So it probably was a scam if they're coming back and she has access to that information. So I'm kind of like, I don't know. I really just don't know. Like, either they're just bad on the phone about stuff and their process just sounds real weird, or maybe I owe somebody some money. But I mean, it is kind of weird too that they mentioned a company that I can't look up. And I mean, it sounds like one of those other companies, but it might not be like an actual one. Like, the name might be a little off, and it just sounds familiar because it's a little on the vague side, that it might sound like something that sounds just enough like something else that if you don't really know it in detail, that you would maybe believe it. I don't know. But yeah, we'll see. We shall see.